Do you know that there are about 40 million licensed vehicles currently in the UK? About 1.6 million of these vehicles are brand new cars that made it to the market for the very first time in the last 12 months. There are about 6.89 million used cars that exchanged hands across owners in the last 12 months. You see, it's a very big market, and it is expedient to have an understanding of the basic requirements that ought to be in place in order for you to drive your cars freely in the UK. Hey, it's CJ. Let's talk. There are two major things that ought to be in place before you can freely drive your car on the UK roads. First of them is that you should have a license from the Drivers and Vehicle Licensing Agency, DVLA. And secondly, you should have a car insurance cover in order for you to drive your car freely in the UK. Let's talk about the car insurance. The Road Traffic Act 1988 clearly stipulates that it is illegal for you to drive your car on the UK road without a cover which at least caters to the other party if there's an accident, an injury, or even a death. There are three major levels of cover. A lot of insurance companies then build their products around these three and come up with a whole lot of other additional products. So you could see over 100 products out there, but we can literally narrow them down to three major levels of cover. The very first one is the third party only cover, popularly called the TP. The third party cover caters to the other party involved, just as the name implies. So if you take out an insurance policy that has got the third party cover, if there's an accident, your insurance company will fix the car of the other person involved and not your car or their property or whoever it is you get injured while driving. There are a few other add-ons that insurance companies can throw into that, to make it look a little bit more attractive, but basically it just caters to the other person that is involved in the accident and not you, so your car will not be fixed. The second level of cover is the third-party fire and theft. So in addition to the features of the third-party cover, you also have access to a kind of cover that caters to you if your vehicle gets damaged or written off by fire, or if the vehicle gets stolen, or if there is an attempted theft that leads to a damage on your vehicle. Your vehicle will be fixed or sorted out or replaced, as the case may be in this instance. So that's the third party fire and theft. The third level of cover is the comprehensive cover. Everybody loves that. As the name implies, it includes everything that is available on the third party fire and theft. In addition to that, it also caters to you as a person. So if anything happens to your vehicle, if there's an accident, your vehicle will be fixed in addition to sorting out the other people involved in the accident. And then some companies include a lot of other features in their comprehensive level of cover. It could be the personal accident cover. So if anything happens to you, there will be a capped amount of money that you can actually claim, to sort yourself out. Some companies calculate how much you get based on the number of bones, damaged in the accident and all that. You could also have the courtesy car where, so if there's an accident, while your vehicle is getting fixed and sorted out, while it's getting repaired, the company will provide you with another car. So that's the courtesy car. And some other companies add the motor legal expenses cover. If we look more into the insurance terrain, you'd have the big players, the insurer themselves. That's the company that is providing you this cover, as the case may be. And sometimes they do that through intermediaries called brokers. If you go on the insurer website and run a quote, you'll basically receive information about their products. But if you go on a broker website and run a quote, you'd receive information about the product from different insurers. So let's say company A is an insurer. If you go on company A's site, or if you reach out to company A to take out an insurance cover, they'll give you products just made by company A. So it could be third party fire and theft, and it could also be a comprehensive insurance cover for company A. But if you go through a broker, they have access to other insurers. They call them the panel of insurers that work with them or that they partner with. Let's say the broker is company X. So if you want to take out a policy through company X, you're gonna have company X as the offering party, but under them you'd have the insurance cover from company A, company B, and company C, depending on the number of panel of insurers that work with them that are willing to offer you a cover. There's also another option you can explore, and that's by going through the comparison websites. They are called the aggregators. So we've spoken about the insurer, we've spoken about the broker, and now let's talk about the aggregators. They are just like companies that run very robust platforms where you can go and get an insurance quote and take an insurance cover actually, and they have algorithms that run at the back end that try to provide a suitable price based on the information you've provided, to them. So it's a great idea taking out insurance from aggregator websites. There are a whole lot of them. If you go on any search engine platform and type car insurance, you're going to have a whole lot of the aggregator websites showing up. So you could go there and get a quote for your cover from different companies. The beautiful thing is it gives you the room to evaluate the prices and the features of the cover being offered by different insurers or even by different brokers. So it's a great idea to take out insurance covers from aggregator websites. One major benefit is that they have discounts. So they run discounted programs with all their partners, the insurers and the brokers. So that enables them to give you a policy at maybe a very reduced price, but there may also be a downside of it. You may not have access to certain features. You may not be eligible to make certain requests if you go through the aggregator site, So it all depends on the companies that you're opting for and the kind of cover you'd like to take out. But when you take out a car insurance policy, an account is created for you. Under that account, you're going to have your policies. You are the account holder, and then you take out a policy, an insurance policy, let's say for your car, under that account. And every insurance policy that exists has a unique reference number called the policy number. You don't have to memorize it anyway. You can easily get it anytime you need it. Most aggregator sites, all they do is provide you a quote and a cover, and you buy up the quote and a cover of them. Then you'll begin to deal with the broker or the insurer directly. If we look at the structure of a typical policy, a car policy, there's an account created for you. So you're an account holder. And then you add, basically the account will have your details, personal details. And then you have your policy set up under that account. And then there will be a policy number. There are some companies, some insurers or brokers that would offer you the ability to run multi-car policies with them. So if you've got 2 or more cars, you can actually take out the multi-car policy. Most of the companies will offer you a discount if you add another vehicle to your policy. There are 2 categories of information that they will get from you. The first of them will be your personal information, and then the other one will be information about your vehicle, the vehicle you're intending to cover. So talking about your basic information, your full name ought to be your name, okay? Then they'll ask for your age, your marital status, the kind of driving license you have. There are over 51 million licensed drivers in the UK. Well over 72 to 75% of them have the full UK license. There's also the provisional license. That's exactly where to start from if you're a new driver, or if it's the first time you're learning to drive or something. Your license type must be accurate. Some other insurance companies will also allow you to drive around using the European license, so the full EU license, European Union license, or some others will allow you to make use of your international license, but then for a limited timeline, maybe 1 year, and then thereafter you switch over to the full UK if you pass the test. They would also want to know from when you've been resident in the UK, because some insurance companies want you to have stayed for a while, maybe at least 30 days before you're able to drive around. It's just a way of minimizing the risk level involved in providing you a cover. Well, and then a little bit about your medical condition. You don't really have to go into details with most of the insurance companies. All they may want to know is if you have any DVLA reportable medical condition or disabilities, so that they will make an appropriate provision for that in your cover details. And the next item will be about your employment status. So if you're a student, you also need to state that you're a student. And if you're employed, you need to indicate that you're fully employed. And if you're self-employed, you also need to specify that you're self-employed. If you're retired, you also need to state that you're retired. Just state your employment status. If you are employed, then you'd go ahead to explain further, indicates the kind of job you do. It may not be like 100% precise. Your employment details, your occupation, and then the type of business you're into. Some of the insurance companies will want to know if you've had any issues with your driving in the past. So they'll want to know a little bit about your driving history. Some of them may emphasize within the last 3 to 5 years. Some may want to go way further down, probably 10 years. They'll want to know if you've had any accidents, claims, or losses within a specified time frame. So just give a little bit of information about your driving history. If you've been banned from driving in the past, they'd like to know as well. Some companies may want to know a bit about your social security status. So they want to know if you've got any unspent non-motoring convictions. And some others will want to find out if you've had driving convictions. Yeah, you've not had an accident, but then probably you've been over speeding in the past and you had some tickets issued and all that. So they want to know if you've got driving convictions and what they were all about and when it happened. And again, this will be for a specified time frame. So that's all about the information about you as the insurance policy holder. Okay, and if you'd like to add your friends or family or parents or whoever you want, partners, to your policy, you also need to specify that you'd like to add a driver. So they'll take the same kind of information from you with respect to your additional driver. And here's a hint: adding someone with a very good driving history and a very good driving experience to your policy can actually reduce your insurance premium, because that reduces the risk level involved in covering you. That's a secret. Okay, so now let's talk about insuring your vehicle. Some insurers have very advanced sites. Once you pop in the registration number of your car, they'll bring up the details of your vehicle, except maybe if the vehicle is like a brand new vehicle. If it's not yet updated on the motor insurance database, then definitely you would have to provide the information to your insurer manually. And to do that, there are basic things you need to know about the car, more like the specs. So let's say you've got a very brand new vehicle and it hasn't been updated on the motor insurance database as at the time you got it off the dealer, and you want to take out an insurance cover, the basic information you should have concerning that vehicle should just be as follows. First of all, you should know the make of the vehicle, right? The manufacturer. Is it a Lexus? Is it a Toyota? Or a Ford, a Volkswagen, a BMW, a Mercedes, whichever make. And then you also need to know the model. It's very important you know the model of the car. You also need to know the engine size, the engine capacity. Most of the specifications that your insurer would require from you will be indicated in the vehicle documents, more like in the particulars of your car, the V5. So if you've got the particulars of the car, you can just literally read off every information they need, from that document. So they'll need the manufacturer, they'll need to know the model of the car, they'll need to know the engine size, and then they'll need to know the body type. Is it a hatchback? Is it an SUV? For some people, SUV could be classified as an estate vehicle or a station wagon. Is it a salon? So you need to know the body type, you need to know the engine size, number of seats in the car. You also will need to find out if it's imported or modified. An import does not necessarily mean a vehicle that was not built in the UK. Insurers interpret what they mean by an import to you. For instance, if a car is designed for the Japanese market and then you bring it, let's say a Toyota for instance, and it's a left-hand drive, and then you bring it to the UK, that's an import, and you would need to make a modification, move the steering to the right, because the standard in the UK is the right-hand drive. The insurance company will check through the list of available modifications that they are able to cover and let you know if they'll provide a cover for you. To give like a blanket guide, most minimal cosmetic modifications could be allowed, but then any modification that would lead to an enhancement of the engine power or a very major enhancement of the features of the vehicle will be a strict decline. You also need to specify where you'd keep your vehicle overnight. Is very important. The overnight parking location is vital to a whole lot of the insurers. They want to know where your vehicle will be overnight, and usually there are generic options that you can select from, like if you're going to keep your vehicle on the driveway, so you specify it's going to be on the drive overnight. If it's on the street outside home, if it's in a locked garage, if it's in a public car park, in a private property, or the street away from home, probably if you stay in a close or an avenue and then you park. Anywhere you keep your vehicle overnight, you need to specify that. And if the vehicle is not going to be kept at your address overnight, you also need to indicate that it's going to be at a different address. In the event that something happens to your car and then you make a claim, if they make investigations and discover that your vehicle was not kept at the specified location overnight, that could lead to your insurance policy getting invalidated or getting annulled or cancelled. You also need to, the big one, specify the value of your vehicle. One easy way to know is by figuring out how much you'd like to sell your car. How much you bought the car could be a clue for you to know the value. If you have an existing policy and then you're renewing your insurance, some insurers recalculate the value at the end of the policy year. So by the time you have your renewal quotes, you should look through and find out the right value, the value of your vehicle. If you're not happy with the price, you can specify, you can notify them to say, no, I think my car is worth X or Y or Z. Most of the insurers use the straight line depreciation method to recalculate the value. The vehicle depreciates over time. Okay, but then if you're just taking out a policy for the very first time, it is your responsibility to state the value of your vehicle, right? Purchase date is very important. You need to specify when you got the vehicle. if you're about to buy it, some insurers allow you to kind of get a future dated quote. It all depends on the particular insurance company, that you've chosen. And another very important thing you need to specify while taking out your insurance policy is the security features available in your car. Do you have the factory fitted immobilizer? Do you have an alarm installed? Is it the factory fitted alarm? So you need to make sure you understand all that. If you've installed it yourself, you also need to specify that. You also need to specify if you've got a tracker. Some brand new vehicles come with a tracker already installed. As long as you're able to trace the location of your vehicle using a GPS service, probably on your phone, it means there's a form of a tracking device installed. So you may need to find out if it's got a tracker. If it has no tracker and you choose to install a tracker, it's also important that you let the insurer know about that. If there is no security device, that your insurer know about it. The next important thing is for you to let the insurance company know what you will be doing with your vehicle. If you do not drive to work at all, if you need your car to just drive around for social use, then you would go for the social, domestic and pleasure class of use. Class of use relates to what you do with your vehicle, where you go with your vehicle, right? Where do you drive to? You go shopping on the weekends, you go visiting friends once in a while, you just drive around, that's the social, domestic and the pleasure option. There's the commuting part. So if you go to one fixed place of work, that means you commute to work every day, more like to and fro, one fixed location, one office address. So you may go for social, domestic and pleasure, including commuting. So the first class of use is the social only, while the second one is social, including commuting. There are people that their businesses, their companies require them to have the business class cover. So for people like that, if it's a mandatory requirement at work, then you'd need to take out the business use. I saw an analysis that explained that 1 out of every 5 UK job adverts will require the applicant to have a license and be able to drive. So most jobs will require that you have the business use. What's the major difference between the business use and the social, including commuting? For the business use, you go to different office locations. Probably if you're an engineer, you go to different sites. You visit different sites. If you're in the health sector, you probably visit different clients. You pick people to and fro different locations. So as long as it's not one fixed place of work, then the business use should be your class of use. I know some other insurers go ahead to bring the business use into other subcategories, like the business use for the policyholder. There's the business use for the spouse of the policyholder. So let's say you have your spouse on your insurance policy as an additional driver, and her work requires that she goes to different places, whereas you don't necessarily need that level of cover. Then you can go for business use for the spouse of the policyholder, as if your spouse is a named driver on your policy, remember. Okay, then there's also the business use for all the drivers on the policy. Okay, so that's the class of use. Whatever you do with your car, you have to let your insurance company know. And the next one is the mileage. How much miles do you cover annually? You don't need to be dead spot on, but it's better to over forecast your mileage than to under forecast. Under forecasting your mileage could be seen as fraud, depending on the insurer that you use. Give an estimate of your mileage, but then over time, let's say you take out your mileage as 2,000, and over time, if you discover that you'd probably hit the 2,000 before the end of the policy year, you can easily ring your insurers and tell them you'd like to adjust your mileage. Or most of them have apps that enable you to make all the changes without calling them. When you provide all these information, the system at the background would run a risk analysis. Then based on the risk level and category of your vehicle, you'd get a premium that you will need to pay for a year. In addition to that premium, they may just add an admin fee, more like an arrangement fee, because while running checks for you, they'll query different standard databases. They'll go to motor insurance database to do an update. They'd go to the claims and underwriting exchange database to run a check to make sure you've not had a bad driving history or claim, to get your claims information. They will run a check to see if you've had convictions. They will check your driving license number to know if you've had any major issues with your license, if the license is valid and all that. So to do all those major checks may cost the company. So they may charge you an admin fee and factor that into your policy. And then they'll give you the total. And in some cases, there are no admin fees at all. When you run your quotes, your insurer, depending on the company, may also want to find out a little bit more about your financial position. So that will determine the payment method that they give to you. So they will run a quick credit analysis, not like a very detailed one, just a quick credit analysis. If the risk factor is high, in some instances, they'll ask you to pay for the premium all at once. Or if the amount is so small that they can afford to just close their eyes and get the money off you, so they'll ask you to pay upfront. If your credit is good, they may ask you to pay on installment basis. If you choose to pay by monthly installments, it's very important you also know that that alone can make your insurance premium more expensive, because your insurance premium tax will be factored into that, and then an interest amount will also be factored into that. You'd have to pay back on a monthly basis. And most of the companies would just ask for an initial deposit, which is usually not so much, maybe less than 10% of the total cost, maybe less than 10. Depends on the company totally. So you make the initial deposit, and then by the time you bounce back, you can just decide to pay the rest off all at once. So they will recalculate and give you the if settled today amount, and that's the amount you'd need to pay if you want to just pay off the premium without running through the monthly installment month on month for 12 months. And then if you figure out it's a lot easier for you, then you can continue with the installment option. It's also a very great idea, but make sure you do not default. If there'll be any reason for you not to make payment, you may need to get in touch with your insurer early enough to request that the payment date be restructured, because if you default, if you fail to make payment, they may charge you late payment fees and all that, and it becomes a lot more messy, and then your premium just keeps going higher and higher. That's all the information you'd need if you're planning to take out the cover. So in this video, we've been able to discuss the minimum requirements for you to be able to drive your car. We've also discussed the levels of cover. We looked at the three major ones, but remember, different insurance companies build hundreds of products of these three levels. You can streamline all the products they're offering you to either the third party only, third party fire and theft, or the comprehensive insurance level of cover. And we've also spoken about car insurance proper, where we mentioned you'd need to provide two pieces of information. The first set of information will have to deal with you, your personality, your driving history, your address, and every personal detail about you. And then the second will be some of the specs of your vehicle that they'll need to know, which will directly impact your premium. We looked at a few other details that you may need to provide. So see you on the next one. It's CJ.